use them a little bit. So I did my presentation on find and filter. What are find and filter? Yeah, I thought someone was going to read that line for line. They're two useful built-in array methods, Graham. But yeah, there it is. So they are two useful array methods. So we're going to talk about the general syntax for them. We're going to talk about when we use them, look at some examples, and then probably have a play around on the platform as well, just to solve some of those platform questions on find and filter. So firstly, the general syntax. So find and filter are both methods. So in other words, they're both functions attached to the array object. And we can call them on any array thanks to inheritance in JavaScript, which we'll talk about a lot later. But essentially they only take one argument each time. And that argument, oops, I didn't mean to do that. And that argument, I can't highlight it obviously, that argument is a callback function itself. So array find and array filter both take functions as their arguments. And that might be the first time you've seen that. Yeah, a function taking another function as an argument, or a function that returns a function. Both of these things are called higher order functions, which again we'll cover quite a bit later in the course. But for now, just know that we need to pass a function into find and filter. And ideally, that callback function should return either true or false. We need some sort of criteria to select elements in the array that we want to return. So we're trying to write a function that has some condition that will evaluate to true or false. We'll see this in action later, but try and just think of that true or false thing in your head until we get there. And then there's a couple of differences, I guess, between find and filter. Does anyone know what find will return? Yeah, Jack?
It returns the first element that it finds to be specified that you're looking for.
Yeah, so it returns the first element in the array that we've called find on, based on the specified condition that we're looking for. So let's say we had an array of numbers. We're trying to see if the number 3 is in that array. We'll write our callback function to test to see whether the number 3 is in there. And if it is, it will just return that number. It will return the number 3 if it's in there. So find just returns the first element that it finds. So just one single return value. How about filter? What does that return? Everything. What? Just returns the array again?
Everything finds.
So everything it finds that matches that specified condition, yeah, that we've passed into the function. So everything that matches true based on our specified condition will be returned by filter inside of a new array. So to sum that up in words, I think you've got it on the full screen on YouTube. I will sort this out for next week about the side of my screen just getting cut off slightly. I'm using a new Windows manager so I can actually zoom for you and make things a bit more visible, but at the moment I've got the edge of my screen cut off just on the projector. I think on YouTube you will see the whole screen. Yeah, I can see that you can see the whole screen on YouTube. Cool. So yeah, just to sum that up, find returns just that single value, the first element that returns a truthy value from the function we passed it, and filter returns all of the array elements that match our truthy condition in our callback.
Sorry, what's this truthy? I still don't understand it.
Yeah, again, we're going to clarify that a bit later, but essentially there are only 6 or 7 falsy values in JavaScript. These are things such as the value of false, an empty string is falsy, 0, the number 0 is falsy, null, undefined, and it's an empty string. I'm missing one obviously.
Why
But
not just 4? Why the C and the T?
because it gives us a lot more power when using logical operators and comparing things, yeah? Undefined is really useful. Let's say we're searching for something and that value doesn't exist, it's undefined. that could stop a whole bit of our code running. But if we have some sort of condition in there that detects whether something's falsy or not, then that will prevent quite a few errors. Yeah, so it's really useful to have truthy and falsy values. But there's going to be a board challenge on it. There's going to be at least one workshop on it, maybe two. So yeah, we'll cover it definitely in more detail. But true and false are of course truthy and falsy values themselves, respectively. But there are others. Yeah. All right, that's a lot of words. Let's actually see some code, right? See it in action to make it make a bit more sense. So I'm going to snip over. Fair enough. I'm going to snip over to my snippets, and we are going to look at some examples. Here, I know I had a conversation with Kathy about this earlier, that I've defined a numbers variable outside of my function, yeah, and I said generally we don't do this, but it's fine, okay, just for the purpose of this demonstration. So I've just defined an array of numbers there, and essentially I've written a function called numbers present in array that takes an input, takes a value, yeah, or a number. I'm going to change it to value probably. Makes a bit more sense. Oops. And we're going to use the find function on our numbers array to just work out whether this number 4 is in there or not. I know we can see by visually inspecting, right, but we might not always be able to do that, and we want the computer just to do it for us automatically. So even without all of this stuff, we can hopefully see that we've set up a function and we've called the find method on our variable, which happens to be an array. Are we all at that point? Is that clear to people? Because if it's not, just say, we can break it down a little bit further. Yeah, we can see that we've got an array here, and using that dot syntax we're able to call the find method, and of course we now need to pass something into the find method to make it work. What is that thing that we need to pass into it? What did I say on the first slide? A function, yeah, it must be a function. That's the one argument that our find method takes, is a function. So I'm just, for now, going to write the word function, and we're going to define a function inside of here. We're not going to give it a name in this case. It doesn't really need a name. It's just there so that find can do its thing. So I'm not going to bother naming it. We won't need it outside of the find. So I'm just setting up my function here. And I essentially want that function to return true, or a truthy value, right? Or, where's my or gone? Up here? Nope, not up there. Oh god, can't find my pipe. There it is. So we essentially want it to return true or false. That's what we want our function to return. But that's pointless, right? Just returning true or false. If I returned true, what do you expect the find function to return? Any ideas? 4? No, not in this case. No. So what find does is it iterates or loops over each element in the array, and it tests this condition. As soon as this condition is true, it returns that element. So it's going to return 1, just 1, because it's here in the code, it's looking at this first element in the array, and we've said, yeah, true. Okay, so find stops and returns that straight away. Just to prove it, I'll run it for you. I'll zoom in slightly, and we can see in our console, hopefully, we get the value 1, yeah? So it's pointless, it's not really doing anything at the moment. If we return false, what does it return? Any ideas? So in other words, it's going to be No, it's going to be looping over everything and it never finds a match, right? Because everything's false. 1, false. No, 4, false. 9, false. So it's not an infinite loop because find's clever enough to avoid that. It only iterates based on the length of the array. Yeah, so this one's only going to run the function 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Yeah, it's going to run this inner function, this callback function. It's going to be called 10 times in this case. So I think it will return undefined in this case because we did not find any matches. If I clear that and run it in the console, we get undefined returned, you see? So let's actually make a proper test, yeah? We don't want it to return just true or false, we want to do some sort of comparison. Can anyone remember what the comparison operator was in JavaScript? How do we make comparisons to test whether one thing is equal to another?
Logical.
Yeah?
Operators.
So, treble equals is the best one to go for, right? Does A equal B? Yeah, essentially, that's what we're trying to set up. So what do you think we need to have our variable equal to? We want it to be equal to 4, right? In this case, if we are searching for the value of 4. So I could either obviously directly write 4 in there, but that's not a very powerful function then. That will just tell me whether the number 4 is in any array. Instead, yeah, let's use the input that we've given it, and we've assigned our number 4 into this variable here called value. And then we want to check whether something is equal to the value.
The number 0.
And we want to check essentially whether the number that we're currently at in our loop. Yeah, well we haven't put it in yet. So that goes in here, inside the callback function. That is one of the arguments we can give our callback function.
So if you leave it, if you don't put argument in that function, will it still work?
Nope, because number is going to be undefined, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So if we don't do that and we run it, then we get an error. Number is not defined. Yeah, exactly that. So we must remember to pass in our necessary arguments in here. I'm gonna talk in a second about what arguments we can pass inside there. And we can see now, if I zoom in anyway, we can see that it does in fact return the number 4. How many 4s does it return though? Only 1. We've got 2 4s in the array. But that's how find works, right? It only returns the first match. So it only runs twice, boom, and then it stops because it found a match. If we use filter instead, and believe it or not, I can literally just change find to filter because they have the exact same syntax. So this is really, really useful, right? Modern JavaScript, they've tried to design the methods to have a very, very similar syntax, well, array methods at least. So therefore, once you learn the syntax for one of these array methods, you've learnt the syntax for a lot of other methods. We've learned it for find, we've learned it for filter, we learn it for map. It's very, very similar for reduce. All of these common array methods follow a very, very similar syntax.
Will filter going to find it in number 44 in there?
Yeah, good question. Will it find 44? Is 44 a separate value from 4? Or is it composed of 2 4s? Yeah, it's a separate value, right? 44 is a separate value than 4.
Isn't there an easy way to write the function as well?
Yeah, we're going to come on to that, Jack, but I just think at the moment some people are still getting to grips with functions, so to do an arrow function straight off would maybe confuse people. So we'll rewrite it in a second. So we said filter returns what? It returns all the matches, yeah? All the matches, and it puts them inside a new array. So what do we expect to be inside of that array if I'm still searching for the value 4? 2 4s, yeah, there's 2 separate elements. Let me clear the console and I'll run that code. What do we get? Fantastic, look, an array with 2 4s inside. because our original numbers list contained 1 match, 2 match, and 44 was not a match, yeah, separate number. Any questions so far? Yeah, Kieran.
Is there some sort of looping with that method?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some looping.
So before you add to the for loop,
Yeah. So
for the filter.
both find and filter are methods that take a callback function, and therefore they call that function for each element in the array. We're going to put some breakpoints now and hope they work, because they can be a bit temperamental in DevTools, and try and show how many times this inner function here is running, and see how the value of number changes. So I'm going to try and put a breakpoint in DevTools, and you can do that just by clicking on the line number. Make sure your file's saved, it has no outstanding changes, and just click on the line number next to the breakpoint, next to the line where you want to add the breakpoint. So I'm going to try and do it on line 6. And how many times do we expect? Well, in fact, I'm going to do a few more. I'm going to do line 3. I've tried line 4, but it's gone to line 8. Fair enough. And we'll try line 9 as well. Would anyone like to hazard a guess as to the order that this code executes in? So what is the execution order of this code? What order does it run in? In reverse, did you say? What, top to bottom? So line 10, then 9, then 8, and so...
Top to bottom.
So generally top to bottom is the execution order, but does line 6 run before line 9, for example? Does anyone know?
I think it does.
So someone give me some suggestions then. What do we think is going to run first? Kieran, yep.
No, I don't think it does, because when you're calling a function, isn't it? Actually, I don't know.
Let's go with Kieran's attempt first, and then we can edit it and talk about it. Yep. So line 9 you think comes first, even though we're going top to bottom, right, Kieran?
Yeah.
Okay. Next. So I assume something else runs other than just line 9. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure how we got an answer.
4.
Then we think 4. Yeah, fair enough. Then
3.
then 3. Then
Line 3, that's what
yeah, let's just let him finish his attempt, and then we can talk about it.
5, then 6.
Then 5, then 6. Yeah, so I didn't have a breakpoint on 5, so I'm just going to put 6 for now. Yeah. So where 8 is highlighted is where Kieran is saying 4 essentially, right? Because 4 to 8 is the function declaration itself. I tried to put one on 4, but it put it on 8 for me instead. Yeah. Very annoying. Anyway, any other attempts first, and then we'll talk about what we think is
Yes.
correct. Yep.
I think the first thing is going to happen is number 4.
Number 4 first.
And then it will run a function which is
Then it will run the
number
function.
5.
Right.
No breakpoints.
No breakpoint on 5. But do you want me to put one there? I can try and put one there.
The thing is, it has to try to find the loop. So
It's not going to let me, right? So
Why?
5 is essentially number 9 now instead.
So it's not
I shouldn't put it up the top, should I? Because the line they're going to change each time. This line thing.
Why doesn't let you stop there?
Because DevTools is really fun to play with. Don't know. Don't know, to be honest. Right. So anyway, your guess,
okay,
Ahmed, was
number line 5. Now it comes to line 4. Look, you change the language. Okay, line
yeah.
3.
Okay, so 3, 4. Yeah.
And then it jumps to line 9.
Yep.
Because it needs the value to calculate. From there, I think you return. That's number 5.
You've only got one left, right? 6. So
For 6, should it not
I don't want to go through every single line, just the ones that I've highlighted, yeah? How many times does 6 run? Once?
It will try first and then. Yeah.
Okay, fine, yeah. Anyone else?
I don't know.
You said that there was a loop in here as well.
Yeah, I said the inner function loops, right? This iterates over the array and is called as many times as needed.
Does it run twice?
So Jack's suggestion is that 6 runs twice. Does it run at the end, at the start, in between? Where does it run, Jack? What's your full guess?
You always said full thing.
Every time.
So I think it start 4.
Yeah. Then,
Um,
so you've said the function is declared first, and then,
then I think it's 9.
say what?
Then I think 9.
9? Yeah, you can.
Then 5.
Okay, so 9. So I just want, where does 3 come in it? Where does the declaration of, where does the initialization of the variable come in?
Oh,
Numbers.
that would be for 6.
That'll be just before the 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more guesses, or shall we take these as some answers and then see what happens?
Yeah.
Well, let me add one more thing. The loop, I think it's going to run 3 times, twice to find the 2
So you think 6, 6, 6,
Yes.
or the whole thing goes 3 times?
The loop, the whole thing runs 3 times.
The whole thing runs 3 times. So you're literally like 3, 4, 9, 6, 3, 4, 9, 6, 3, 4, 9, 6.
No.
No?
The loop runs,
What loop? What loop?
The one that compares the time number value.
So this bit, line 6, runs 3 times, which is what I've done. Yeah? Okay, awesome. Alright, let's hope that DevTools is going to stop the breakpoints where I've asked it to, which is usually a...
This is fine. This.
So firstly, line number 3, right? Top to bottom. First line of code is line number 3. So of course that is going to run first. Yeah? Next would be line 4. It declares our function. So I'm hoping it will stop on line 8, but it might just skip that completely because that is the end of the function definition. Let's see. Still on 3, and I don't think it's... Oh, I pressed the wrong button. That's my fault now. Hold on, guys. Sorry. So I think now if I press this little arrow here, it should move to... Yeah, so it skipped 8 completely. So now is 9. So in other words, the execution order would have been 3, 4, 9. And then it's going to jump inside of our function to line 6. How many times is it going to run at the moment?
This is fine. I thought it was a filter. It's fine.
At the moment, it's ran once. We can see that because the number is set to 1. If I go again, it's running again, so that's twice. Now it's on number 4, and it's testing number 4. If I see again if it's carrying on its loop or whether it's going to stop there, it's stopped there. So that inner function ran twice. Ran once, it tested number 1. Number 1 does not equal number 4. Therefore, I'm going to keep searching. Yeah, number 4. Does number 4 equal number 4? Yep. Okay, we'll just return that. I'm going to stop. I don't need to search anymore. If we instead did... Oh, I need to tidy up this screen. If we instead... Something's still running somewhere. Try shutting that. I'm going to take out line 8 because I didn't like that anyway. Alright, I'm going to try and run it once more with filter. And we're going to see what happens. So most things should be the same, and I'll explain why. So firstly we said top to bottom, right? Numbers gets declared. Next, the function numbers present in array gets declared. Next, all of this code inside of a function does not run initially. It's just stored in memory for later use. The code does not run at this point. It only runs when we invoke it, and we don't invoke it until line number 9. Yeah, so this code here is read, it's stored in memory, but it's not executed. It's not run at all. So then after 9, we've called the function with a given input. So then of course it jumps inside of the function and starts running this code. And the way that find and filter work, this first bit, if you like, numbers.filter, is only going to get called once. But this inner function is going to get called as many times as necessary. For find, that is until it finds a match. For filter, that is how many times? Every single time. So what do we expect? How many times do we expect filter to run in this case? Yep, so I think I agree with Jack. Jack said 10 times. We're going to count together and check that, right? This is still open, which I'm a bit worried about, but we'll try running it anyway. Okay, so first we got 3. Next we should get 9 when I step through it. We do indeed. Next we should get 1 6. Okay, so we've got 6 with the number 1. That's 1. Next, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Any more? No. Fantastic. Yeah? So hopefully we can see the difference between find and filter there a little bit, yeah? No matter what value we're looking for, filter will always iterate and loop through the number of elements in the array, yeah? So if there's 10 elements, 10 times. If there's 5 elements, 5 times. Find only loops until it finds its first match. Until this condition, number equals value, returns true. Questions?
Can you just go over the order again? What we've got?
Go over the order?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in general, JavaScript code runs top to bottom, right, in a file. So that's why line 3 runs first. That's also why line 4 runs next. Line 4 is a function, so therefore the code inside of the function does not get executed until we call it.
Yeah.
So in fact, that's all of those lines, right? Yeah, from there to there, from curly brace to curly brace, just gets stored in memory for later use, doesn't get executed. We've only got 1 line left, so that's going to run next. Yeah, number present in array is now invoked. It finds in our file number present in array and goes inside this time the curly braces. So now this bit of code is running. Well, yeah, filter's running once, but inside of filter we've got a callback function. A function that gets called many times based on a condition. After something has happened, yeah? Callback. Call back to this function after you've done something else. And with filter, that bit runs 10 times. With find, it runs as many times as necessary. Let's change my number now to 20, I didn't mean 26, 25. How many times will the loop of find, the inner function here of find run? So Ahmed said 4. Do other people agree with 4 or different? Yeah, lots of nodding. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. 4 times is because check once, check twice, check 3 times, check 4. Yep, 25 equals 25. That's it. Don't need to run that inner function any more times. Good. Yeah, fantastic.
Are you using snips?
Snippets.
Yeah, this is a Chrome DevTools snippet, so if you want this snippet, I can send it to you over Slack and you can play around with it yourself.
I have it, but I can't run it with the return.
Can't run it with the return.
Yeah.
If you send it on Slack, that'd be great.
After the workshop, I'll send this snippet and a few others on Slack, and you can play around with it at your leisure. Yeah. And I do recommend that you play around with it as well and change it and try and break it almost and then fix it, because then you'll understand how the function is working rather than just copying my code essentially. Cool. So other things that I wanted to mention. Yeah, let me come back to the slides and just see if there's anything else I've missed, and then we're trying an example together. Yeah, we're trying to build out a find and a filter function together. So we said there were differences in the return value. Let's look at some other differences. We've talked about that as well, right? How many iterations? Find only runs until it finds an element, and filter runs once for each element in the array. Or the inner callback runs, once for each element in the array. If it can't find anything or it can't filter anything, there's a slight difference. Find returns undefined because it's searching for a value. If you can't find a value, you return undefined. Filter is creating a brand new array and then adding elements into that array that match our condition. So it starts with an empty array filter, and then it will put the matches inside as many as it finds. So if it doesn't find any, it will return an empty array, not undefined. Yeah, a little tricky difference. And unfortunately, an empty array is a truthy value, and undefined is a falsy value. So it can get a little bit tricky in that sense. But what's that? Sorry. So filter will always return a truthy value. Yes, even if it finds nothing, which can be tricky if you're not aware of it. Yeah, if you built your code around it finding something or not. Yeah. And just a very small point, but it's an important one. Both find and filter, as a lot of methods, do not mutate or change the original array. And we can see that in practice now if you don't know what I mean. So if we come back to our snippet. At the moment, I'm returning the result of find. Yeah? If I return, let's put it inside my function this time, just to be clear. So I've now moved numbers locally inside of my function. If I return numbers, do you think that numbers now only contains this one value of 25, or does it still contain all 10?
All 10.
All 10? Yeah? Yeah, you're right. Oh, I've still got my breakpoints. Let me... Sorry, let me take the breakpoints, save it, and we should be good to go again. So I don't want the return there, otherwise my code will never be reached. Still an invisible breakpoint. See what I mean about breakpoints with DevTools? But then hopefully you can see down the bottom, our array hasn't changed. Our numbers array has not mutated in any way. If we used an older method, such as pop, does that mutate the original array?
It does, yeah.
Does, yeah. So pop would mutate the original array, and therefore we're going to be missing 44 off the end in this case. So I run that code, ignore the annoying breakpoint, and then we can see down the bottom that there is no 44 on the end this time. Yeah, it has mutated the original array. So if we tried to just return numbers.pop, it's a bit of a weird method. It just returns what we've removed from our array. Yeah, it just returns 44.
Why does it choose the 44?
So pop deletes the last item in the array.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and the return value is that last item. So mutator methods were common in old-fashioned JavaScript, but again they led to some errors, right? You wanted that original array, and you changed it or mutated it somewhere along the line, and therefore when you ran a modern method like find or filter, it wasn't actually the data that you wanted to use. And so nowadays, modern methods tend to create a copy of an array or a copy of an object and then perform the operations on that copy. Yeah.
Is pop being pushed out?
Pops what?
You know, like you can,
Is it being phased out, are you saying?
yeah.
It still has its uses. Yeah, it still has its uses. Shall we solve some more questions together, briefly, to wrap it up? Yeah?
Yeah.
Test our understanding? Awesome. I'll leave that open. Let's have a look at this one. Can everyone read that, or should I zoom in slightly?
Yeah, we can read it.
Read it? Yeah. So we just want to write a function to check if a child, and that's specified as someone under 12 years old in this case, is in the group. And we want to return the age of the first child found. So, what do you think we will use? Yeah, because we just want to return the age of the first child. Notice that keyword first. And then what goes inside my find? A function, yeah? I'm going to write it the old way and then we're going to refactor it to be an arrow function this time. What goes next? Function keyword, then what? Parentheses, curly braces. What do you want inside of inside the parentheses? I heard someone say age. Yeah. Oh, that's what I haven't talked about. Yep, we'll talk about that in a second. Then what? To what? 12?
No. Age.
Age to ages.
Oh, age to age. The other way around.
Not sure about that.
We're trying to get the first number, isn't it?
Yeah, we're trying to get the first number that is under 12 years old.
So that'll be 12 then.
Does that say under 12 or does that say equal to 12?
It should be
Less than or equal to.
Yeah, so less than symbol is that one, yeah? Or equal to 12. Yeah? Happy with that so far? Spaces? Where have I missed a space? No, I'm alright. Semicolon I have missed, of course, but apart from that, do we think that's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Are you supposed to pass the number through the parameter instead of I don't know.
What, these? You want me to put that directly in there? Because I can. You want me to do that? That's valid. Is that not what you meant? That's not what you meant. Okay. What was the question?
I thought where the age was, if we can pass
I
that
thought it was
number.
going to invoke it by putting the argument in the ages to invoke it. Originally, the way you did it before.
Yeah. Either way is fine. They're both exactly the same. I don't fully understand the question. Sorry, I'm just going to run it, and we get a 7. Yeah, as our answer because that was the first number inside of this array that was less than 12. Yep.
If you do less or equal 12, it's not less than 12.
Good point. So you want just age. Yeah, it does say under 12, not 12 or under. Yeah, good point, Esteban. Yeah, very good point. So that would have actually returned 12, right? If we had, I don't know, let's have a child of 100 and 70 in the group, then that would have actually returned 12 in this case, and they wouldn't have been defined as a child if we'd had that. Yeah. So yeah, fair enough. Very good spot, Esteban. Just pointing out the ridiculousness of my function. Yeah, QA Esteban. How do I write this a little bit simpler using an arrow function?
I can't read it that way. So you do age equals right arrow.
Yeah, so age arrow. Yeah.
Into the function age again.
Yeah.
Less than 12.
Yeah.
And semicolon.
We need to get rid of.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
That's it,
That, right? That's the same thing. Pass in an argument of age, tell it it's a function, an arrow function, and then do age less than 12 as your return statement.
This is much easier.
This is much shorter, but perhaps if you haven't seen that before, it's not as easy to understand what it's talking about. Yeah? So that's why I did it the other way to begin with.
Without changing.
For me, the other way is more confusing than this. I haven't seen one.
Yeah, I agree. Once you're used to it, this is simpler, but
That way is simple, clear.
we haven't talked about arrow functions yet. If, for example, I had another input, can I just do that?
No.
I don't know. We don't allow people over 70 on or something something weird like that as well. If I had that, could I just comma separate my variables in that way? Nope. What do I need to do instead? Wrap them, right?
Yeah, the experts.
Yeah. If we have more than one variable, we must still put our arguments here. Sorry, if we have more than one argument, we must still put our arguments in parentheses.
Because you added 70, you created a second argument. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
because I've created a second argument. If we just have one argument, we can leave the brackets there, that's not a problem, but we can also omit them and it will still work, right? Depends how lazy you are in putting brackets and things like that. Yeah?
So maximum that would be the 70.
Yeah, max would now be 70, yeah. And then we could have another condition, you know, and age not greater than, so not greater than,
Exclamation mark? What
Yeah.
happens if you put exclamation mark before that?
yeah, and not that. Something like that you could do, right?
Negates it.
Hmm?
We're
It
negating
would
it.
negate if it's not correct. This is not better.
Yeah, so we didn't want to include, have I done it the wrong way around? We didn't want to include any people over 70 or older, so, oh, it's or anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, because the and is for equals and true.
Yeah. So either we return a child, well, you want to return either a child or a pensioner, essentially, right? Then you could do that, I guess. Let's try it. Let's add an age as 87, and let's see if we return 87. Yeah, we do, right? If we didn't want to return 87, we only wanted to return the children, could do that, and we get 7.
So what does that exclamation mark do again? I thought it reverses it.
Yeah, it converts it to a boolean, so either true or false, and then reverses what the value was. Yeah,
The 70 outside of the array.
It's a separate.
it's your separate argument, your separate input value, which I.
Will we check it too or no? No.
What do you mean with it? No, it's not. It's not checking this because
Stop.
ages is defined as this first parameter. Yeah, this first argument.
Ah, yeah, true. Yeah, sorry.
Max
Yeah, yeah.
is set to 70. So no, when we check ages.find, of course we're not checking the 70.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, no problem. That might not have been clear.
Where is defined max?
Where is
because
define
it's-
max? Here, here, and here.
Because it's outside the bracket. So
Yes. Outside the square brackets. It's not part of the array. Anyway, it's just an example to show that we need to do something different with multiple parameters. Any questions so far?
Was this just going to return number 7?
Yep, this would return 7 in this case. If you want to return 10 as well, what do we do? Filter, exactly. Yep, 7 and 10. You want to do a question on the platform to wrap it up? Or you want to leave it there? Platform, finish? Platform, okay.
Keep us awake.
Keep you awake, alright.
Wow.
They're trying to say his word.
Find or filter?
Both.
Both. Woo. Start with find, shall we? You want to do the first question or you want to do a third one? What do you want to do? Let's do one of each. Pick a number between 1 and 5. Third. Skip. Ah, look, this is a perfect one. Ricardo's favourite question. Find the sexy artists. So, we've got some code over here. How many arguments have we got being passed to the function find sexy artist? 3 arguments, is it? 2. What 2 can you see? Just 1? We've got 3, 2 and 1. We're getting a countdown. We've got none in a minute.
Oh, no, two. Name and sexy.
Name and sexy, the 2. 3 were the 3 objects, were they? Is that what you were going for up there? And who said 1? Yeah, what's the 1? Is sexy. No, you're all wrong. So it is only 1.
Because it's an object.
But can you see that? Hey, Pork. Come in or go upstairs. I haven't seen anyone else yet, so up to you. So square brackets, right? See those square brackets there after the parentheses?
Yep.
So the whole thing is an array. 1 argument, 1 array. Inside of that array are 3 what? 3 parameters, 3 objects, right? They're 3 objects. 3 items, 3 objects. Inside of the objects, how many things have we got? We've got 2 keys or 2 properties? 2 keys, yeah. Properties is another word for keys, yeah, in this case. So 1 argument, that is 3 objects inside of our array, and each object has 2 keys or 2 properties of name and is sexy. Good stuff. Now we understand hopefully a bit of the question, and all we want to do is return the first name, the name only, not the whole object, but the first name value of the object that has is sexy set to true. In this first case, that's Brad, and in the second case, it's Angeline. All right. So,
I just understood it.
huh? You just understood the names.
Yeah.
Okay.
It took me a while. I'm not that into gossip, sorry.
Old gossip this is, right? This is ages ago. Anyway, how can we write this function then?
So we return
Yeah, return. Let's always put a return in.
artists.
Artists is the name of our array. Fantastic. Yep. Dot find. Love it.
Parentheses.
Yep.
Function.
Okay, we want to go with this way. No problem.
Parentheses again.
Yeah.
Space. Artist.
Artist.
And there's code block.
Code block. Yeah.
And that will be return.
Yeah, we need a return again because we need our function to return either a truthy or a falsy value. Nice. Yeah, because this function here at the moment we want it to return something. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Sexy equal true.
Is sexy equals true? Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, is sexy is sexy is sexy defined or not? Yeah, so is sexy over here, look, it's a property of our object. So we need to access it by giving the object name first, which is what in this case? Artist, yeah, artist is the object. Dot is sexy equals true. Bit of elegance as always.
Where does this artist
You're not done to need to return the name.
Sorry, we've got two questions. Say that first, Jack.
You've not actually completed the question. It's asking for the name.
Yeah, we haven't actually fully completed the question yet. I'm going to run it in this case and see what we get back, and then we'll work out how to just get the name back. Seb, you asked.
Yes, sorry. Artist, where are you
Artist.
picking that from?
I
Yeah.
think instead of the equals true should be equals name.
Yeah, but no, it's
No, that's true.
Let's
go.
So one thing at a time, guys. Let's answer Seb's question, then we'll come to these other points, all right? So Seb is asking, where does artist come from?
It was declared in the function.
It was declared in the function
Right.
up here, so that's why it's got a value. But how did you know it was going to be an object? You all knew it was going to be, but you can't fully explain it, right? Because what does the find method do? Well, it iterates over each item in the array. Yeah? What is each item in the array? In this case, an object. Yeah. It might not be, but in this case, it is an object. So that's why we can use the dot notation to say that. So whatever we put in here, right? This argument in here is going to be the current value in the array. Yeah, the one that we're currently on when we're iterating over the array. And we store it in a variable so that we can perform tests on it.
The artist can be anything, right?
No, it's basically clear. It can be anything.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, any name. Yeah.
Black.
Blah. Yeah. Not very semantic, but it will work. Yeah.
As long as it's the same in the function.
Yeah, as long as they match. Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm going to run this and see what happens, and then we'll improve it if we need to. Red. Oh.
No, we knew it was the name.
Yeah, we knew, but
Okay.
Ed's just claiming that one all for himself. I told you, you're all wrong.
The name hasn't been added.
So we've returned the whole object. That's not what we wanted. We wanted just to return the string that is associated with the name key. Ed, didn't you say do something like that though?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's not right though, because we still need our test to return either true or false. And then how do we just get the name back from find? Just dot name, exactly, yeah. Find has returned an object. How do we access Brad inside of this object here? Let's just do dot name. Yeah, chaining on name. We don't need to store it in a separate variable. We can just do it all in line like this. Run it again. Hey, confetti time, and even no elegance issues either.
Where does that parenthesis begins?
This one here.
Yeah, it takes to that. Fun.
No, it's surrounding the.
Wait, if you don't mind, do you mind explaining the process of executing that code, please?
Absolutely. I'm going to make it even sexier first. Let's make it shorter. Yeah? One thing we could do is an arrow function, yeah? So just, let's have artist. We might need 2 lines. Let's see. Assuming we need 2 lines, let's leave it like that. Do we need equals true? Why not? We just need equal. Well, that will make it slightly shorter. I'm not sure how much value that's added, Bilal, but yeah. And remember, double equals are evil. So yeah. So the suggestion is from a few people on this table is to get rid of our condition. Yeah, it's a true or false statement anyway, right? Artist.isSexy is already true or false. Yeah, so we don't actually need to compare it to true to return true. We just need to get the value of it. So we can just do that. So that makes it a bit shorter. then I think it will all nicely fit on one line because we've made it a bit shorter. We don't need that bracket either, and we can probably just do that. So one-liner. Yeah? Is he going to run? Yeah, true. We're going to test in a second. Seb's commandeered my laptop at the moment.
Sorry.
Question, Seb, what do you want? Okay, but he's crying now because I've upset him. So let's run the code. Still works. No elegance issues. Perfect. Yeah?
I think it's going to take me some time to understand this.
Yeah. So maybe we might go back to the other way to run through it. Is that easier?
But you don't need the true because already here it says the other ones are false.
Yeah, so the other ones are false, so therefore they're not going to return a truthy value, right? Alright, let's try and break it down a little bit, and then if not, it's going to be a bit more research time outside of the workshop, probably.
As it is
But-
right now, just find the one bracket for the function find, and let's say we put artists. Okay, alright.
Yep, so we're saying take the array of artists, call the find method on it, set the current value equal to a variable called artist. What's the current value in the first iteration? This object, this whole object is the current value. Yeah? We're looking at each item in the array. Yeah, so artist gets set to, on the first iteration, the first loop, this whole object that has a name property, Danny, and an is sexy property, false. Don't know who Danny is, but it's a bit harsh to know where Danny is, right? And then, what do we want to do with that object? Well, we want to see whether the is sexy property is true or false. If it's false, what happens?
Yeah, it repeats.
It repeats again. It repeats this bit inside of find again. Yeah, this whole set of code, this whole section of code will run again. This time, what is the value of artist? The second element in the array, which happens to be the object containing Brad. Well, go on.
In this case, if the third one was true also, we wouldn't know.
Doesn't matter.
Because the find
Because
choose the
find
first
only returns the first match, yeah, the first element that is truthy. Yeah, so because this evaluates to true, right? Artist.isSexy returns true. That means that the find method now will return this element, which is the whole object.
So
We
you
didn't
just
want the
find
whole
the
object.
first.
1 second. We didn't want the whole object. We just wanted the name. So that's why we put .name on the end. We could also have written it with the square bracket notation. How would I need to change it then? It's a string, right? That would also work. Yeah.
It's not going to be okay.
Seb, your question now?
What was the name of the
Name of the function is find sexy artist.
But actually, you're going to find the first CCR.
Okay, yeah, so maybe we could name the function slightly better, find first sexy artist, or rather than find all
but
sexy
The
artists.
question is, if you have more than one, you're just going to find the first.
Yeah, only one. This will only ever return one value because we're using find. Yeah?
Just to understand.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
This one is just straightforward. This one, the other function is so easy.
What I always start is these things understand the foundation. So and then we can learn the arrow function.
You know, these other these with brackets, all that sort of stuff. You know.
Preference Ahmed at the end of the day, right? If you want to use it with arrow functions only, you do that. If other people want to use normal functions, no problem. Yeah, either or.
You finish quicker. The others, because yours is just one line.
Do you still want to do a filter question before it's home time? Yeah? Let's do it now then, yeah? Pick a number between 1 and 5.
1.
No, one is easy.
1's easy, so alright. What one? 4, okay.
Why do you want the hard one?
Because we won't have with the helper. Oh.
This looks like a similar setup to the question we've just done.
Try another one then. Let's do one.
Oh, they're all going to be similar setup, right? Find and filter are very similar, but get remaining bank holidays.
This one is hard.
I'll make you shut up for it.
Ahmed's going to come up and code this one for me, right, Ahmed?
I can give it a go.
It is. It's good. He's up for it. If you want to, you're more than welcome to.
You're never going to get it right unless you get it wrong the first time.
True. So we want to know how many days are a bank holiday in 2019 out of the list of provided dates. Yeah? But we've already got this useful property called isBankHoliday that is set to true or false. So we can use that to return, well, eventually we need to return just how many. So we don't want to return any sort of object or value, but just the length of the array, right? So who's going to solve it for me?
Return.
Ed's always there in with that return, right? Return. I say that, I don't have to say anything else. I've done my bit.
Exactly. It's going to be known as Ed Return.
We've got Esteban QA and Ed Return. Yeah, let's keep going with the nicknames. Sorry, yeah, dates. Dates dot what?
Filter.
Dot filter, yeah, we're on the filter training. We want more than one result to be returned.
Parentheses.
Parentheses.
Function.
Function. Oh, it's controversial. Yep.
Dates.
Where does date
Inside
go?
parentheses.
Thank you.
Curly braces.
Curly braces. Space it out. Yeah.
Return.
Return. Awesome.
Date. Alright, I'm going to finish it up.
You want to finish it off? Well, that's it, right?
Yeah, so return dates.
The property was called
Bank holiday.
Is Bank Holiday?
Yeah,
That one?
Is bank holiday.
Oh, didn't like it. Is no, it's not auto completing for me.
Equals.
He said you don't need that alien.
Yeah, we don't need it, right? Because true or false is already given
Okay,
for
so
it.
it is there, okay.
Semicolon, semicolon.
Yeah, that's it.
But the length, where are we getting the length of the...
Yeah, so at the moment, filter on its own returns an array with a couple of matching objects inside because the object is what was listed in the array. Yeah. So how do we just get this number back?
It's holiday dot length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what dot length?
Not first. No.
Where?
It's holiday, I don't know.
Is holiday dot length? Where's his holiday? Here. Is bank holiday dot length like this? Is that what you're saying, Ahmed?
I was going to do it the other way, but
No.
let's try that. Let's try that one.
Sorry, what way did you mean? I didn't understand what you
At
meant.
the end of the bracket.
Here. Yeah.
That's what we did,
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it works. Very well done. Fantastic. And Jack said no semicolon, and he's quite right. So I got an elegance issue for that one. Not a perfect score. All right, but yeah, that's it.
Use arrow functions, man.
Let's use arrow function. Is the fifth one any harder?
Someone's asking the question, speak error.
Oh, Kieran, you said something?
Yeah, he's asking a question, but he's too shy to ask. Him. He's asking
It's so comprehensive.
No, he needs to speak out louder so everybody benefits from it. It's an explanation. It doesn't look sure.
Leave it there, or do this last one?
Team Bro was aggressive there.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it there because I got no clear answer. All right, thanks very much, guys.